What is going on, guys? This is Crowzen, and welcome back to another Oblivion Remastered build. This time we have the Paladin Smite Regenerator build. So this is my own custom take on a Paladin build in Oblivion Remastered, and we have a lot of things going on with this build. Not only are we going to be able to deal some devastating smite damage, but we're also going to be wielding a big warhammer. We're going to be regenerating so much HP and magicka with this build, and we're going to have some amazing defenses and resistances that we're going to be nearly unstoppable with this thing. So let's take a look at the build. So beginning with the race and the class, I recommend going with a Breton because they are going to start with 50% magic resist, which we're going to get to 100 very easily, and you're also going to start with a plus 50 to magicka. But keep in mind that this isn't required and you can choose any race that you want. As far as the origin, I recommend going with Sistrus over High Rock because they do start with 40 strength versus High Rock's 30 strength, and since we are going to be wielding warhammers, we're going to need more strength. For the class, you want to go ahead and create a custom class as this gives you more control over your build. For the specialization, we're going to go with magic because most of our skills are going to be magic skills. And for the two favorite attributes, I recommend going with strength and intelligence because we are going to max those out first. For the major skills, we're going to select two combat skills, one being armor and then the other one being blunt, since we are going to be using warhammers. The four magic skills are going to be Conjuration, Destruction, Illusion, and Restoration. The two most important ones here being Destruction for the smites, and Restoration for not only the HP regen, but Fortify willpower. I like to have Illusion for paralysis spells, and I like to have Conjuration for not only turn undead, but also one summon in particular, which is the Black Bear. So if you do happen to find a Black Bear, then you can definitely summon that, and it still kind of fits the Paladin vibe. For the last major skill, we're going to select light armor since we will be using mithril armor for the entire game, and they did an amazing job remastering the look of that armor because it really fits the Paladin vibe now. As far as the birth sign, we actually have a couple of different options. The safest option is going to be selecting the mage. That way, as a Breton, you're going to start with a plus 100 to your magicka, which means more spells. If you're looking for more of a roleplay option, then you can start with the Ritual because they have a turn undead spell and they also have Mara's Gift, which restores 200 health per day. Your other roleplay option here is going to be the Lord, and you're going to start with a plus 15 to your armor rating, and you're also going to start with 15% more magic resist. So as a Breton, you're going to start with 65% magic resist, which is pretty much all you need for the entire game. The next step is to go over the attribute level path, and I like to go by priority for this. So strength and intelligence are going to be our two main attributes, so we want to go ahead and max those out as early as we can. So I like to go with a 5-5-2 method. We're also going to want to max out endurance and willpower, and those are going to be the four main attributes for this build. This 5-5-2 method works out very well until you get to around level 21. At that point, you're going to have one odd number with willpower, so you want to make sure that you don't have it like at 99 or something. So I think at that point, I just went 5-4-3, so just keep that in mind once you get to around level 21. At level 30, this is how our attributes are going to look, and we're going to have our four main attributes maxed out at 100. At that point, you're basically free to do whatever you want. If you want to go for more of a roleplay choice and level up personality, you can definitely do that. But the most important thing here is getting our four main attributes to 100. Our next step is building our equipment, and we're going to start out with our weapon. So the best weapon is enchanting your own. So you're going to have to do a lot of Mage's Guild recommendations, or just go to the Wizard's Tower, unlock that altar of enchanting. So go ahead and select your weapon, select a Grand Soul Gem, and then you're ready to start enchanting. So whenever we are enchanting our weapon, always pay attention to the order in which the effects are listed and try to have the damage effects first, and at the very bottom put the weakness effects, and this is the same for whenever you are creating your own spells. So in this case, I went for fire damage since I felt that's the most appropriate for a paladin. We're also going to add drain health, and then I highly recommend that you give light a try. What this will do is it'll make basically all the enemies light up every time you hit them, which really gives you that paladin vibe, and it hardly requires any charge. From there, I do add Soul Trap for 1 second in order to easily recharge this with Azura Star, and then I add Weakness to Fire 100% for 2 seconds, Weakness to Magic 100% for 3 seconds. That way I got enough of time to get a power attack in there. And in case anybody is wondering why I'm using the Dwarven Warhammer, it just gives me the best Paladin vibe. So obviously it's going to have lower base damage than say a Daedric or an Ebony Warhammer, but most of the damage is going to come from your enchants anyway. So feel free to use whatever you want here. I highly recommend giving the Dwarven Warhammer a test. As for the armor enchants, the most powerful ones are not going to come from enchanting our own, but rather getting the Transcendent Sigil Stones from taking on Oblivion Gates at level 17 or higher. So make sure that you look out for that defensive effect with Fortify Magicka, because we are going to be using a bunch of those. So for the Mithril set, I do like to go with a lot of Fortify Magicka, so I slap that on the helmet, the greaves, and the gauntlets. For the boots, I add 125 points to Feather, which is also available from the Transcendent Sigil Stones. For the chest piece, I do use Fire Shield. Not only is this going to give you a plus 25% resist to fire, but it's also going to add plus 25 to your armor rating. So whenever we use this with a power attack from the Warhammer, we're going to be over the 85 armor rating cap. One thing to take note of is that a lot of people are saying that there is a bug with shield while you are wearing armor, as it's going to break your armor a lot faster. And this even applies for the charged Warhammer attack that gives you shield, so it really does seem like you're breaking your armor a lot faster whenever you have any kind of shield effect on. As far as the rings, the best ring is going to be the Mundane Ring, as this is going to give you 100% magic resist if you started out as a Breton, which is pretty overpowered. Now you can get this from the later stages of the main quest if you begin that fight at level 22 or above. For the other ring, I just use another Fortify Magicka enchant from a Transcendent Sigil Stone, but you do have a whole bunch of different options. The Mind and Body ring is great, especially early on. You also can go for Ring of Namira if you do want to get the reflect damage from that. Ring of Perfection is great if you could find it, and then also Sorcerer's Ring, because this will give you spell absorption and another 25 points to Fortify Magicka. For the amulet, the best one here is going to be Amulet of Axes, which you can find randomly, which I believe is at level 20 or above from a boss chest. And this is going to give you 33% to reflect damage, and it's also going to fortify your blunt by a pretty significant amount if you are not at the level cap. You also can use Necklace of Swords, as this will give you the reflect damage, but it is going to fortify your blade instead, but that's okay. The main thing we want here is the reflect damage part. And if you don't have either one of these, then you can go for anything that gives you Fortify Magicka, as we're going to need a lot of Magicka for our regeneration spells. So now let's take a look at some of the spells that we can create in order to give you that best Paladin vibe. So the main spell that I use, and really the only destruction spell, is going to be Smite. And this is an on-touch effect that gives fire damage, shock damage, absorb health, drain health, and I put all of these on 10 feet so that way it's an AoE attack. And then I also add 2 seconds for all of the damage effects other than drain health. I also go with Soul Trap for 2 seconds in order to recharge my weapon, and then all of the weakness effects down at the bottom. So weakness to fire, shock, and magic, all for 5 seconds, 10 feet. And if you don't have the skill level in order to make this at 15 points, that's okay. You can just lower the damage. It's still going to be very powerful. As far as our regeneration spells, I have a spell called Willpower Boost. You guys will remember this one from the Warlock build. It's basically just a Fortify Willpower on self, 100 points for 70 seconds. It does require a lot of Magicka, but you regenerate Magicka so fast with this that it's worth it in the long run. For the HP regen spell, I got a spell that I named Regen, and this uses your entire Magicka pool, but it restores health by 10 points for every second for 2 minutes, which is massive. And it also adds another Fortify Willpower for 7 seconds, 100 points. And the good thing is that this will also stack with your Willpower boost. So just take a look at how fast we are regenerating our Magicka right now. So you definitely won't be able to cast this at the beginning of the game, so you can go for something a little bit more manageable, like Regen Light here, which is only a restore health for 6 points. I also have another quick healing spell, which is something you guys might remember from the Stealth Archer Conjurer, which is basically just another Fortify Willpower, 100 points for 7 seconds, and Restore Health, 100 points for 2 seconds. Now you can play around with that Restore Health points. You can go 50 points, 3 seconds. You can basically do a bunch of things with that. Another spell that I use is called Holy Ground, and this is basically an illusion spell that you can just cast at the ground and it will paralyze enemies for 4 seconds and 10 feet. You also will have weakness to magic for 5 seconds right after that, so it works out great for debuffing the enemies as well as crowd controlling them. And just about every build is going to need a feather spell, so I use Beast of Burden, which does require 100 alteration. However, you can make your own at the Mages Guild for 100 points, and that will last you all the way until you get to 75 alteration. At that point, it's better just to buy them from the vendors. If you do get lucky enough to get the Pride of Hearstang spell tome, I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly, then you can actually use this to summon a black bear, and I feel like that's a little bit more appropriate for a paladin. So just think of this like a spirit bear that will attack your enemies for you. And finally, we can go over some combat tips, so make sure that you stick around so that way you know everything that this paladin build can do. So when you first get to a dungeon, right before you enter, I highly recommend just using your willpower boost and start that magicka regen, and by the time you get into the dungeon, you'll be ready to go into your health regen spell, because that is going to use a lot of magicka, and the good thing is that both of these willpower effects will stack, so you're going to be regenerating magicka at a very high pace, and that's also going to carry over while you're in combat. As far as what combination I like to use, I generally start with the Smite and then go right into a charged warhammer attack right after that. Remember, the Smite does activate weakness to magic for 5 seconds. Another recommendation would be to get the Azora Star as early as you can in the game and put that on your hotkey, and anytime your weapon charges run out, you can easily recharge your weapon without having to go in your inventory. You will also have access to conjuration, so if you do happen to find that Black Bear spell tome, which is very rare, then you will be able to use that as a nice distraction whenever you are facing multiple enemies. However, it's not totally required. Another nice thing about these sluggish weapons is that they have an animation cancel by just tapping your hotkey, so if you do swing in extra time or you just want to get out of that animation a little bit faster, just tap your hotkey whenever you feel like it. And if you do create that Smite spell with a 10-foot radius, this works out perfectly in AoE situations, so make sure that you do capitalize on that. And finally, we have that little fun paralysis and weakness to magic spell, which I call Holy Ground, which you can use to fully CC enemies. So thank you guys for watching till the end, and I hope you learned something in the process, and this is a very fun build to use and to try out. And yeah, let me know what other types of builds you want to see for this game, because I will keep making them as long as you guys are going to keep watching them. So thank you again, and I will see you in the next video.